recording. So.
Bill, it's another episode of Known Legacy. Excited about this one.
It's so good to see you, and I'm still without apple cider donuts.
Duly noted to our Known Legacy bros and ladies out there. Please, apple cider donuts. We are church workers, and please, we beg you.
Send us the apple cider donuts.
Begging you. Anyways, because we both need the poundage, not at all. Hey, as always,
nothing wrong with that.
Man, if you can take some time and give us a 5-star rating on podcast if you listen there.
Yeah, all your
just so you know,
sources.
every other Tuesday we do a live Facebook live feed on the video, and so you can see what we're doing and what we look like, and put a face to the voice. And you may regret that. I'll be honest.
Yeah, it is definitely something you're probably going to regret.
Yeah, and I want to give a big welcome again to Kyle, our producer. So say hi,
Hey,
Kyle.
Hi, Kyle.
Hey, everyone.
I can't thank you enough for stepping in and making this happen. Excited?
Oh, my pleasure. I love it.
Very good. So we're so glad to be back. It's a beautiful day. It's no longer 105.
Yay!
It's 97.
Yep.
And so it's nice to have broken the 100 mark. We're losing. It's like when you lose a couple pounds, you're like, all right, let's go out for pizza.
Oh, so my question for you three guys, or for you two guys, what show are you binge watching right now?
Oh, Squid Game.
Yeah, we actually are watching Squid Game right now.
All right, that's Korean, right?
It is Korean.
Yes.
Okay, is it odd that it's like dubbed over with English, or is it?
You don't notice it much
You-
after a while.
You don't really notice it, and I think it's becoming more prevalent. You see
Yeah.
that a lot more.
It's kind of good.
Yeah, it's because there's some anime stuff that my daughter likes to watch, and it's funny because like when they scream and they're like, no, and you're like, yes.
Well, that's gone back to Speed Racer. They couldn't get it right.
Yeah.
Exactly. They can never time it perfect. But
That's kind of what made Speed Racer so endearing, right? That they had it all wrong. So my show is, and I don't even know if you guys have seen it. It's called Curse of Oak Island. Are you guys familiar with the show at all?
Okay.
So let me give you a brief rundown. There's an island in Nova Scotia. Is that the right pronunciation there, Kyle?
Nova Scotia.
Nova Scotia, right? And it's the Oak Island, right? And it was two islands that became one
island. It
island.
looked like a cool, like you kind of, I watched it one little time, but man, I remember it was like, it looked so neat, but it was like season 7 online on TV or something, so I didn't get into it.
Just start with season 8, man. Because basically what it is.
Start with season 8?
The story is these two brothers, right? Rick and Marty Lagina, I believe is their names.
Okay.
And Marty, I think, was a postal worker. He's retired now. This is kind of his muse. This is his thing. And his brother is a very successful oil and gas drilling company or something. I don't know. But he's got money. That's all I'm going to say. Because for 8 episodes or 8 seasons now, they've been digging holes, big holes, throughout this island looking for this treasure, right? And they got a whole team of people that they're paying for. It's amazing. But for me, the thing that amazed me most, and I realized this the last time I watched it, the treasure of the show has nothing to do with them digging and finding little artifacts and finding new roads and everything else. And I would recommend it. It's watching the dynamics between these two brothers. It is fascinating how these two brothers, like one guy, the one that's funding it, is skeptical. He's like, if there was a treasure here, it's long gone. But because his brother is so passionate about it, he's willing to fund it. And they have these really honest conversations about like, should we do this? Should we not do this? And they support each other. And it's like, that's the brother relationship that I think we all long for, that very few of us have ever experienced. And so I'd watch it for no other reason than to just see these two dudes, successful men in every right, and the journey they have every summer on this island together and how they interact with each other and like learn lessons on how to be a better brother because of that. It's fascinating.
So would you say the real treasure is what?
Is their brotherhood relationship. Brought to you by Known Legacy. But now you know. Zing.
But it's funny that you say it because people hunger for that. I mean, that's why they watch the show. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, okay, they're going to, because, I mean, if you really want to know if they got the treasure, they're going to fast forward to, season 8, episode 24, and be like, did they get it or not? But they don't care. And that's like every other show. Like all these people who get involved in these different shows, the dynamics that are in them is what people get get attached to. So I love that you bring that because it is a hunger in our society. It is something that these guys want, and the more guys that we talk to, and it's never changed. It's like the same stuff. You're like, if you eat healthy and you work out, you're gonna get healthy.
Right.
It's the same thing here. Like if you have community with another dude, if you connect with other guys, you're gonna move forward in your life. You're gonna have more success, and that's kind of what it sounds like right now. Is what you're kind of saying is like engage another dude.
Absolutely. It's like, you remember that show from a few years ago, Orange County Choppers, I think it was?
Yeah, yeah,
and the
absolutely.
dysfunction between brothers and dad. And we all watched it because it was a train wreck every single week. But they make
pretty
great
much,
motorcycles, right? Until the family absolutely dissolved. Okay. This is a complete opposite of that. And it's subtle and it's endearing. It's not the main storyline, but it's definitely there, and it is so worth it. And it made me realize, like, who are the brothers in my life? I grew up with 3 older sisters, so I don't have a brother per se.
Okay,
but
yeah.
there's other guys in my life that I'm like, man, if I wanted to go on a crazy treasure hunt,
yeah,
who are the guys that I would A, have the guts to talk to about it, and B, be willing to say, hey, would you fund it to a few $1 million a year, even though we haven't found any treasure for 8 years now?
Well, that narrows the list a bit.
Yeah, exactly.
That would be 0. That would be 0.
But I got a shovel.
I got a shovel and a cigar.
Right.
I'm following you wherever you want to go.
Wherever you want to go. There is something about that, though. Like, I mean, again, the quest for more, but it isn't just the dollars. I almost think it's very little the dollars, because even at the end, like, whatever it is, what it is, they find it, they don't find it.
Right.
But you're right. Like, it's this quest. Again, it's 8 seasons of them finding this. There's obviously enough in that.
And imagine every summer you get to spend the entire summer with your best friend.
So they do it just on the summer. Just in the summer.
Well, dude, it's Nova Scotia. I mean, when November hits, everything's frozen, and it drops down to like 5 degrees.
Yeah.
Rumor has it.
It's as cold as ice.
It's cold.
It's as cold as ice. Yeah, there you go.
That is a Canadian band, so that counts.
Oh,
but
that's what I appreciate. Oh,
okay.
There is some depth and wisdom to our tomfoolery when he blows out, well, that was actually produced in 1970.
Tomfoolery. Yeah. That definitely dated each of us.
Anyway,
but
so you were
does,
saying.
No, it brings up the point of, man, this guy's brother is that guy for him.
Right.
And there's, I know even as we've had the conversations in the past, I don't see a lot of guys who have that guy. And, that question has come up before, like, how do we be that guy for somebody else? And when I mean that guy, it's the idea of, like, how do we be, man, inside the church there's always these churchy words and everything, but, like, how are you a mentor for somebody else? And I don't want to
I don't think that's just a church word, but I got what you're saying.
You understand, but,
yeah.
but there's, inside the church, like, find someone to disciple. And I'm like,
right.
I strongly believe in discipleship. I strongly believe in mentorship. But sometimes it becomes so mechanical.
Academic. It's an academic. And that's what you see. Like, if you look at Jesus and his story, why did he take 3 years with these guys? And the reason why he took these 3 years is because he knew it was relational more than anything.
Yeah.
It wasn't just an exercise of academics where literally he could have sat down for a month and a half, 2 months, given them all the stories, told them all the parables, and said, now you're discipled.
Exactly.
And it's like, that's not how he did it.
No, and it's funny. I even saw this one meme where all the apostles are sitting in rows, and Jesus is pointing to a board and go, "This is not discipleship." And I'm like, good call. And so when I mean that, but then that also causes guys to go, well, I'll never do that.
Right. So
like,
what do you think some of the barriers are for guys to never get that?
I think a lot of it is, and this is, being honest, it's people that aren't ready to be real with each other, or they downplay real as weakness. Like, I'm being weak right now, and so they shell up themselves. They put this wall up when in reality, that's exactly what God wants. There is something really cool about when even it talks about when we come to know Christ, that with the mouth confession is made. There's something about speaking it. And there's something about that shuts down the enemy. Like, he cannot have authority when you say it anymore.
Right.
And so there's something in a guy going, yeah, I feel that too. And it shuts down the enemy from going, crap, that's one less person who I can deter and ruin with this, because they've just spoken life to someone by going, yeah, I'm a mess too.
Right.
And so he's lost the idea that we can say, the enemy can't say you are alone anymore.
Right.
No one's for you.
Well, and I think it goes into the DNA of men because we're providers, right? We're protectors and we're providers.
Yeah.
And so much of our providing is the idea of like we have to keep the facade up at work that we know what's going on, even though we don't.
Yeah.
You know, and it's the great facade is I think a book Why Men Hate Church or Men Are from Venus or whatever. The great facade that most of us guys work under of pretending like knowing we don't have it all together.
Yeah.
But I got to pretend like I do because as soon as they find out that I'm going to lose my job and my ability to provide, and if I lose so I'm just going to pretend like I have it all together. So I'm going to inflate the numbers a little bit. I'm going to make sure the slide is a little bit nicer, and that keeps us from having these authentic relationships.
Yeah. It walls them up.
Right.
And so there is something really, really powerful in being a wall breaker.
Nice.
You know, so I think
Nice.
authenticity equals breaking down those walls. We were just having that conversation, Kyle, about authenticity in everything that we do and the value of authenticity of going, I just need to check myself. Okay, do I want to be that guy for someone? Well, if I want to be that guy for someone, I have to be authentic. Where am I not being authentic in my life? And have I ever had the guts to put my heart on the table and go, okay, here it is. It's pumping on the table. You guys can have the opportunity to smash it if you want to and make fun of it. But that takes more guts than me holding up and going, no, I'm fine. Nothing ever bothers me.
So back to what Travis said. How much do you think the facade that we as men put on for our families affects the ability to take that down at church?
Oh,
yeah.
yeah. I mean, that's where we perfected in a lot of ways with our family.
Yeah.
You know, and we're terrified, and that's why I think a lot of marriages struggle sometimes because we haven't stepped out and really trusted the other person with some of the hard stuff, some of the broken stuff in our own lives. And so we play the hiding game because we're terrified that if we don't play the hiding game, this whole house of cards is going to come crumbling down.
Well, yeah, because if you can't trust the person that you have literally said you're going to spend your life with or those you have watched be born and are your children, then how can you trust anybody else? And it's like, well, and that's where I think that phrase, like, well, it's easier. You know, it's easier out here at the cigar shop or it's easier out here at the coffee shop because you can just keep the facade up because they see you for, you know, the equivalent of an Instagram post.
Right.
You know, that they're like, oh, everything must be fine. And then you walk away and nobody's satisfied.
Right.
They're less satisfied because they think you have your stuff together. And then you're less satisfied because you're not fully known.
Right. And so in some ways, most of us will run in two circles. One circle is our work circle, and so we'll have our friends in work, but they're our friends because of a task at hand.
Yeah, like there's something.
And if you were to leave that job, chances are you would not be hanging out with them anymore.
Correct.
Then you have your friends that are your family, but there's a very specific role you have to play. And I think what we're talking about is who is that third dynamic? Where's that third community that you as a dude can go beyond the sports scores, can go beyond the latest golf tournament that you played in, and actually get into the nitty-gritty of what's going on.
Yeah.
You know? And that's where I think the church has an opportunity to offer that space. The challenge is most of us roll into church just on time. We don't really want to hang out with anyone and anything extra. Are you kidding me? I'm already packed because I don't have time to do what needs to get done. How can I create space for one more thing?
Yeah, and again, going back to that, well, how can I ever be that guy for someone? I think it's finding that circle that we're already doing, like the golf course or at the shop or wherever you are, being asking God, help me to be authentic in those places. And I would be challenged, or it'd be a fear or like, you know, a negative thing to say that there's nobody else there that feels that same way, that someone is waiting for someone to have the guts to go, hey, I feel that way too. Even if they pull aside later on and go, hey, when you were talking about that, they may not say, I feel that same thing, but they may go, hey, man, I understand what you're saying. Or they'll start some side conversation like, I had a buddy who was like that. I had a buddy who was just like that. You know, and he did the same thing that you did. Can we connect and talk about my buddy? You know, and so even that just opens the door to being real. So I think it really is, it's a lot easier than we make it in this world that is so closed up and so locked down that people don't even know how to connect anymore.
So we need a brotherhood. We need a group. Let me ask you this practical question. How many guys in your life would you look at and say, those are the guys that are my brothers. Those are the guys that I know if we went on a treasure hunt, they'd be in heart and soul.
Less than a handful.
Less than a handful.
And I think that's
okay. Is that okay?
I think that's okay.
Why?
Because you know, even Jesus had his 3.
Ooh.
In the midst of his 12, he had his 3.
Right.
And so even in there, like you see the relationship, and I love it because John, the disciple whom Jesus loved, defined himself as the disciple whom Jesus. It wasn't like Jesus said, "And I love you more."
No, he was like, I'm the one that he loved more.
Exactly, and so he had John, he had James, and he had Peter.
Right.
And so in that there's a different level. That doesn't mean they were greater or less. They were guys that they just connected with. And sometimes the struggle is like, well, even and I'm going to sideline this. People get all in the church. We don't want to get cliquey, so we're going to just put people in different groups. You're like, but time out. Like, it's not a matter of cliquey. It's a matter of authenticity and honesty.
Oh.
That you can be real. And so they're like, well, that sounds cliquey. Well, from the outside, it does look cliquey because those two guys know each other. And they don't need to know everybody. That's the other problem. We've talked about this. You could have 1 million followers on Instagram. By the way, we're a known legacy on Instagram. I'm just kidding. I'm totally kidding. But so come follow us. And
we'd
I'm
like to
saying,
get 100. If
Exactly.
we could just get 100, that'd be amazing.
If we get 100, we're in big shape. No, but I'm saying like there's all these people. Yeah, I have followers and I had this many likes. Who cares?
Right.
You're gonna walk away. You're gonna walk away empty and alone. And yes, I understand business, so we're not talking about that. All the people are like, well, strategy. But I'm saying like being known. When we're talking about this, it does not matter about all these people. Even Jesus, he had 12, and in the midst of 12, he had 3, and those 3 were his boys.
Yeah.
And only one of them was at the cross, and it was the disciple whom Jesus loved, and nobody else. Everybody else fled.
Yeah.
And so he was like, in fact, to the point of where at the very end he was like, John, behold your mother. Mother, behold your son. He's like, I'm literally asking you, can you take care of my mom when I die? Like, that wasn't just like,
and that's
so
not
King
just bring a
James.
casserole over
No.
and call her from week to week.
Hey.
It's like you're taking on the full responsibility, financial,
Yeah.
everything responsibility.
Because the King of Kings who died on the cross said, would you mind taking care of my mom for me? That took authenticity all that time.
And you know what? And maybe some ways that's the line in the sand that we should be striving for with a handful of guys in our lives, that we would get to know them and they would know us so well that if the chips are down and God forbid something were to happen, we could look to them and say, I need you to take care of my mom, and that they would do it without hesitation.
Yeah, or even something as simple as like, can you go get my mail when I'm on vacation? That's usually a start. Or would you mind watching my dog? And I know those are silly, but those are the people, even now, as you're thinking like, who do I, like that's a good benchmark of who are that guys for me?
Yeah.
Who do you call when you have a problem? And those are the guys that God is going to draw you towards to go, would you mind like being my like really good friend instead? And it's the little things. It's walking through that.
Well, and so let's say we're in that position, like, and I got 2 or 3 guys that I would say less than a handful, but 2 or 3 guys that I know at any time I could call, and they'd be like, "We got the van, we'll hide the body, whatever it is," right?
Yeah, I know what you mean.
But
I'm reading you.
I think that part of the challenge, and one of the things that keeps us from that, is we have a culture that has, I think, overcorrected, because back in the 50s and 60s, you had a lot of absent dads where they were spending all their time away from family with work or with hanging out with the bros, and they weren't with the family. And then we overcorrect in the 80s and 90s where it became like dads had to be a part of the families, but we lost balance.
Yeah.
Where they don't have, and the study after study is saying the loneliest group of people in our culture are men between the ages of 35 and 55.
That would make sense.
Right? Because it's just, they're wrapped up with work, and those are friendships, but not really, and family. And they don't have, and so I think if you're finding yourself in a space where you're like, man, I don't have a brotherhood. I don't have that group of guys that we can just hang out with and not see for months and immediately start back up at zero.
Yeah.
Or not start back up at zero, start back up where we left off.
Where we left off, yeah.
And go. And I think that the key is we've got to be willing to carve out time to connect with them. And it's not doing the over the coffee shop talking. It's game's on. Come on over.
Yeah, and it's being inviting. You know, there's a scripture says for a person to have friends, he must find himself friendly. And so a lot of people are like, oh, well, it's in Proverbs and I can find it, but I don't want to dig through it. But I would dig through it, but I don't want to waste our time on here, me flipping through the pages.
Yeah, who wants the Bible?
Who wants the Bible in it? But it says for a person to have friends, he must find himself friendly. And there's a lot of people like, well, I feel really, really alone. I'm like, well, have you been inviting? Have you invited people out? Because there's also in the core of them, I'm not good enough.
Right.
What do I have to bring to the table? And I think that brings me to the second thing. So being real and authentic and being weak in front of men is actually strong.
Right.
But then it's also lifting up and supporting them. it's not hard for someone to come in and say, hey, you know what? You're doing a pretty good job killing it. Or, hey, like speaking life. That's it, speaking life. We talk about this with our kids, speaking life to our kids. But I think the second thing is we all have the ability to go, hey, that was really cool what you just did. Hey, you're doing really great with this. And I'm not like walking up and like, high five, brother. But like, yeah.
We're brothers.
Yeah, you guys are, we have the opportunity to lift up people and engage them. And so it's not difficult. It's finding something good and acknowledging it.
So maybe another, because I was thinking about some of the group, one of the group of guys, how it went from just hanging out at the cigar shop and talking about politics or whatever else to a deep friendship where we knew we had each other's back.
Yeah.
And honestly, for me, the shift was I had to put in a fence. And I knew it was a project that was beyond me.
Yeah.
And so I had to ask some of these guys. And if you can find some guys that are willing to serve alongside you in something obnoxious like that, then those are guys of peace and those are guys worth investing in. And so these guys came over, and for a weekend we put in a fence, and I did a horrible job setting it up. The posts were like 6 foot apart to 10 foot apart. It was a train wreck, right?
Yeah.
And one of the guys, he came in and he had some expertise. He's like, can I just redo this for you? I was like, yes.
Please.
Yes, you can. And the cold front had hit that Friday, and so it was like in the 40s, rain and drizzly, and it was miserable. But these 4 guys hung out, and we got that fence done over the weekend. And I'm like, these are the guys that we will go to the mat for each other.
Yeah.
And so I think that's another thing that we struggle with as guys is asking for help. Because I'm like, I can do it myself. You're right. You can do it yourself. But is that actually what you need to do? Or do you need to ask a brother to come over and help you with it? And that will indicate, man, this is a guy that maybe we can go to the mat for each other.
Well, that's it. And I think you brought up a good point when you said there was definitely a tension. Hey, can you redo this? What are you saying? I'm an idiot?
Right.
What are you saying? I can't do this? But you were like, hey, you know what? Let's do it.
Yeah.
And you invited him into the story because we didn't have, because I know that there's something that he craves from you. Like, hey, Travis, can we have a conversation about this?
Right.
Absolutely. Like we're not experts in everything. We don't have to be. That's why we need community. That's why we need each other. And so I love that you did that, because then it's like, hey, if you can help me, don't worry. I'm going to show you how to smoke an amazing brisket. You know what I'm saying? Like, because there is something.
Now you're talking my language.
Exactly. See, like I suck at smoking brisket, so I'm like, Travis, I need your help.
I was going to tell you, but yeah.
It's bad. It's bad. But so lifting each other up. But some of that lifting each other up is you inviting them to lift you up.
Yes.
And so it is a symbiotic relationship.
It's a show of vulnerability.
Yeah.
So
iron sharpening iron.
Here's the deal. Our world is continuing to become more and more difficult.
Yeah.
And division is becoming more greater and greater. And I think this is the area that we need to grow in exponentially as men.
Yeah.
Because we definitely need to have connections with other guys.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's not just a connection of like, hey, how you doing? The Cowboys won, woohoo. It's they know your junk, and they're going to protect you in the midst of that.
Well, that's it. And so you've got being real and authentic, finding the guys that you're already doing life with, lifting them up, and then in the midst of that, you hear their stories,
right?
And you see what makes them come alive, and then you support their passion. Right. That's the third part.
So find a few guys, take some time right now, maybe jot it down in a to-do list, 2 or 3 guys that you're like, man, I love my time with them, but I don't spend enough time with them, and start to figure out creative ways to spend more time with them. Sunday dinners at your house, hanging out, doing whatever, helping out with projects around the house, redoing the car, changing the oil, changing the brakes, it doesn't matter. And begin to intentionally invest in them, because I guarantee the same thing that you need is what they need, and they don't know how to get there either.
No, and I think that's it. It begins this relationship. It's a lot easier than we've made it. The enemy wants to tell us, no, we just need to shut up and move on, and there's already enough on our plates. But what it is, it's pulling the wrong things off the plate and putting the right things on, which is engagement with each other, because this doesn't just help them. This doesn't just help you. It helps your family.
Right.
Because you're going to walk away more and more fulfilled.
Absolutely.
Your kids are going to see what healthy relationships look like with each other as well. They're going to see, wow, Dad does this now. I got to find someone as a 15-year-old or a 13-year-old to find someone because these friends around me, they don't care about me.
Right.
They don't speak life to me. And even if they never say it and never walk up and go, hey, you know what, Dad? I've been watching you. And, my friends don't lift me up like you. It's like they're in that pipe, but it's there. And this is the word become flesh.
Right.
And so it will not return void. So as we live this out, it's like, I want what my dad has.
Yep.
But they can't have what Dad has until Dad has what he needs.
So in the midst of a dark
that
world,
guy.
in the midst of a dark world, there's still beauty out there worth going on an adventure to find
Yeah.
and get some guys to help you find it.
Yeah.
Boom! How about that? Wrapping that bad boy up. Put
Sounds
a little bow on
good.
it. Done.
That's good, guys. Thanks for checking us out today. Go to Instagram at Known Legacy, Facebook. If you're watching on right now, you are already on the Facebook page.
Correct.
Make sure you share it with your friends. That's how you can help us. Share with our friends, and then connect with us at info@knownlegacy.org. We'd love to talk to you. We'd love to connect with you and hear your story, because your story matters.
Hey, and if you're in the Texas area, we are doing a men's retreat called Long Shot. It's down in Central Texas in the LaGrange area, and I know there's some spots still available, so please check us out. We'll put it in the description of the video, and
Yes, we will.
sign up and join us. There's some great giveaways. There's some great raffle prizes.
It's
and,
worth going.
Bill and I will be talking and doing our thing, so
That
love
may
to have
be a
you there.
deterrent for you coming, but it's still going to be a great weekend. Hope you guys can make it. Thanks for listening, guys. Have yourselves a great week.
God bless.